Alright, so here we are. Welcome to Ask Wes, episode 3, like you saw in the opening. Baby Evelyn is right here. I'm feeding her right here. So you hear little squeaks and coos and all that stuff. That's who's making her special guest appearance. But thank you all for your patience over the past few weeks. As you can see, a lot has been happening. Yeah, thanks for sending in the questions, and we have quite a few really good ones. And while we answer these, instead of doing just the face cam the whole time, I thought it would be good. Here, let me readjust her. There we go. There we go, baby girl. I thought it would be a good idea to show some time lapse, and especially because of one of the questions, the first question that we have. And one of the time lapses is of a very quick landscape study, kind of warmer, snow-covered, some trees. It's kind of like regrowing type of stuff. I wanted to see if I could balance a snow composition type thing with warms instead of just going purples and blues and stuff for all the snow. See if I could balance it out and have all the trees and the sky and everything be yellows and browns, but still have it read like sky. But that one took about an hour and 15 minutes, something really quick just to see if I could do it. And then there's a portrait, which is a little bit more painterly, a little bit more thick impasto stuff. And I kind of film these in different ways as well. That way we get more of a close-up of just the canvas and less of the tools. Let me know how you like that. But let's get on to the questions. I think we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, but these are pretty beefy. So we can talk for about half an hour or so on these, and it should be good to go. So I wanted to start with our good friend Archive here that says, "Hey Wes, welcome back. I've been wanting to ask, do you have a different approach on painting landscapes and portraits? Or do you just kind of have a general approach for doing both?" So now you can see why I did both for this video. It's a very good question, and it's one of those things that I wonder if mentally I think about them differently, but as you watch me approach both of them, if it looks the same. So that's kind of a curious thing, is while we can think of something, while we can think of, things we want to do or stuff we want to make sure we get into a painting or composition or whatever, us actually doing it could be different than what is in our brain. And I think a good example of that is that's why athletes will go back and watch tape after the fact. Maybe if they won the game or if they lost the game or whatever, they're going to go back as a team, or if it's a solo thing, you can go back and look at replays or whatever of your own performance and see how you can improve it, or start to correlate in different ways how your mindset was at the time versus what were the actual results. So to get to the question, portraits and landscapes start in my mind very differently, very, very different. But as I work towards the overall finished product, they get more and more similar. So in a landscape, the only thing I care about at the very beginning is mood. I actually think of mood and ambience more than even composition, because I think the mood is going to answer a lot of questions for me. So if I want something to be dark and foreboding and really ambient, kind of think of Alien or something like the franchise Alien, it's going to tell me I'm going to start really dark, have a lot of angles, some atmospheric fog. That's where my mind's at first. So I want to make sure that I get some of those elements in, even if it's really messy. I just start doing what's considered a kind of a blue sky phase, which I think it's called that because it's almost like you're cloud gazing. You go outside. I think we've talked about this before. You go outside and you look at the cloud and you're like, that cloud looks like a turtle. That cloud looks like a hot dog or whatever. You know what I mean? You see images in this kind of nothingness. And that's sort of what you do. You just start putting down color. You start putting down maybe lines and shape and see if something comes out. And from there, then you can start pushing and pulling and start making something that actually reads a little more as a composition. But on portrait, I start by thinking about the structure. So it's the structure of the head. What way is the face facing? What's the expression? Are the nostrils doing anything? Or, like the location stuff, kind of your plotting of, okay, are the eyes, one eye apart? Do the tips of the lips go up to the inside of the like tear duct? Like those type of proportions are the first thing on my mind. Even if I do a really, really rough sketch, that's what you'll see me sketching, is kind of the angle of the face, which way is it laying, where's the eyebrow ridge, where does the tip of the nose, like what angle is it pointed at? So it's very structure based. But I did want to, on that note, talk a little bit about portraiture in general. So this will go into another question here in a little bit. But with portraits, I used to be very, very, very caught up in the likeness. Getting and capturing the exact person that I had as my reference and making it look as close to them as possible. And the more experience I have and the more clients I work with and the more, kind of imaginative realism type stuff I get, whether it's Warhammer or, the stuff we did for Riot or Star Wars especially, and you'll see that stuff real soon. It was more about the attitude of the person. Now, Star Wars is a little different. There's a lot of very exact likeness that you have to get. But even still, you can kind of get away with a little bit of characterization, kind of a caricature type stuff, if the attitude still reads as the character. Does that make sense? Like, it's, if landscapes is all about mood, portraits is all about personality. Like, that's the abstract thing that you're trying to get across while you're painting. And I realized that the stuff that, gets me more client work, or the stuff that even gets me more likes on social media, is not the stuff that's based on real people. It's the stuff that is like, here's a barbarian. It doesn't matter who the barbarian is. It doesn't have to look like so-and-so. It doesn't have to look like a bodybuilder. It doesn't have to look like a specific person that we may all know. It just has to have the vibe. You know what I mean? They have to be angry. Okay, angry generic face, fine. And you look at cultural stuff. You look at, so tattoos, or, do they have earrings, or is a necklace, but what's the necklace made out of? And, that type of stuff goes way further in portraiture than even likeness does, as far as like getting your point across. Hey, baby girl, she's still having her bottle, so here, let me readjust. So yeah, I think those accessories and kind of that storytelling, they're both about storytelling, but one's about people and one's about places, right? There you go. Okay, so yeah, I would say go for the personality of a portrait rather than the likeness. Now, that being said, if you're hired by, let's say, a family member, or, somebody really enjoys your painting style and they want a painting of their pet, or they want a painting of their grandma, or, I've done paintings for relatives, of like great grandparents or something, or like, there you want likeness to be your number one. You want it to look like the person. And I don't care how you get those results. I don't care if you trace. I don't care if you use transfer paper, if you grit it out. Every professional portrait artist that I know completely say, please, if you're doing it of a real person, trace the crap out of it. Make sure that everything is exactly where it needs to be before you start putting layers on layers of paint on there. You just want to make your life easier. There's still a lot of work to do, even if you trace, even if you put it up there. but it has to look like the person. It has to. Even if the eye is slightly off, or, the bridge of the nose is slightly too high, that can completely change the perception of who the person is. That's why you see a lot of stuff where during the pandemic, everybody's wearing a mask. And, my wife is a school teacher, and she would always talk about, during the year, everyone's wearing a mask. And then at the end of the year, once the mask mandates were lifted, you pull off a mask and people don't look like how you think they look. You know what I mean? The whole nose, nostril, mouth, what's it called? The Cupid's bow above where the lips are, that little area. I don't know. My definition anatomy is terrible. But you have these, and the way the chin and the jawline and all that stuff, that all makes a person. So that's the stuff whenever you're going for likeness. It all has to be pinpoint accurate. And, but otherwise, if you're just making a fantasy character or a Magic the Gathering card or, the stuff we do for Varia, we purposely make sure that it doesn't really look like anyone in particular. It can remind you of somebody, and that's great. If it reminds you of somebody, it means we've accomplished something, right? Because either they have the attitude or the swagger or whatever of the person you're probably thinking of. Maybe the likeness is there as well, but primarily it's just the personality and the impact that the person gives overall. It's a lot more fun too. It's a lot more fun to do that. But anyway, to kind of tie this all the way back in. So for the first probably 30 to 40% of either a landscape or a portrait, I'm thinking in that mode. I'm thinking for a portrait, it's all structure. If it's a landscape, it's all mood. But once I pass the, couple of hours point, once I got some stuff on the canvas and we either start refining or start making it more painterly, or, you kind of go to that next step, whether that's adding color or, really adjusting and rendering your values, then all the paintings start to become the same thing. I start looking at, okay, is there some soft spots for your eyes to be able to rest? Where is the main idea? Am I making the main idea very apparent? And what I'm realizing more and more is don't feel like you're being too obvious. Make your main focal point your focal point. Do everything. Make it the highest contrast, make it the sharpest edges, do everything. Make sure that people know where to look, right? So I do that. So I find out what the main idea is for the landscape, and then I do all that stuff. I sharpen the edges, I improve the brushwork a little bit, I maybe add some interest to it. And that way I make sure to mind my edges, and the lighting is there, maybe the colors are more saturated. It's the same exact thing for a portrait. So what do I want people to notice? Usually, it's the face, because that's what portraits are, but not necessarily. What else is going to be in focus? Is it going to be the necklace? Is it going to be earrings? Is it going to be the hairstyle? What is the other part that's going to really tie this in? Is it going to be the dress that they're wearing? Or, if it's a man in a suit, are the angles of that suit going to be the thing to show how broad his shoulders are, or whatever? You know what I mean? That's really what you want to focus on, are the things that really make the main idea pop. So yeah, whenever they first start, they're very different, but as the painting goes along, then it starts becoming more of, hey, does the image itself look good? And yeah, that's really it. But thank you for that one. That's a great question. Yeah, I could talk all day about that one. And moving on, we got Kiri9707 asking, any advice for not overworking paintings? I've been trying to paint alla prima style, which means all at once or one layer. But I can't seem to be decisive with my marks and end up picking at a painting until it looks worse than it did before it was quote unquote finished. Aha! Now you're cooking with gas. You're asking the right questions. Because alla prima is extraordinarily difficult. This is why I like doing it a lot. It makes you make decisions. Okay? So I'm going to give you a few tips on this. Any advice on not overworking on a painting? finish the painting before you're done with it. I know that sounds really weird, right? That's a really weird thing to say. But I got this idea. There's actually, there's a writing seminar that my wife, has self-published some books. She's a great author. And she got some advice, and I can't remember who it was from. Maybe like Riley Sager or Ruth Ware or somebody. But they talked about stop writing in the middle of a sentence. Like, even if you know what the sentence is going to end like, but because what you want to do is you want to give yourself momentum next time. So the next time you sit down, you have a place to start. Oh, I got to finish this sentence. Where was my head at? And it makes you think of where you were while you were writing that sentence. Does that make sense? So try that. Finish your painting for the day before you're done. Just finish. Be like, all right, yeah, I guess the head's there. I guess the face is there. Yeah, the colors look good. All right, cool. Done. And then whenever you come back, you're going to, one, see it in a different way. If you sleep on it, go exercise, have a meal. And then you come back, you're going to see it different. You just are, because now you have more lived experience. You're going to come back and you'll be like, oh, maybe that background's not as bad as I thought it was. So I'm just going to leave it alone. And that's where the secret is. If you just don't touch it, just don't blend, don't smudge, just don't touch it. A great way to get better at alla prima painting, a great way to do it, is use brushes that are too big. Use brushes that are too big, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to start overlapping. I think of it like mowing the lawn. Whenever you mow a lawn, you have to kind of go over the part you already went over. Whenever you do the next round, whenever you're doing laps, you kind of have to overlap. So overlapping these colors and these brush strokes is actually how you're going to get your blending. And the great thing about that is that gives you a lot of really interesting edges. And in my opinion, value and edges are kind of the key to any painting, in my opinion, but especially to alla prima painting. Your edges are everything. So keep the edges in mind more than the item, and think of if you need a sharp edge versus a soft edge or a smudged edge. Do that at the very end. Some people do it while they're working, but if you do your smudges and stuff while you work, be sure not to go back and retouch it again. Okay, so that's why I have this video called the gauntlet method, which is where you do one layer, you do everything on one layer, you don't hit the undo button. If you make a mistake, paint over it, choose different color, do something. A lot of people find that very difficult, but once you do it a few times, your mindset's going to change, and it's actually a lot of fun, and it's a great way to get that nice painterly style. It's funny, you'll never hear people complain that they paint too tight. I just work too tight. I work too tight. You never really hear that. Because, well, let me think. Sorry. Or is it the other way around? That people I work too loose. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. That's where my mind was. Sorry. So the opposite of what I just said. Nobody says, I work too loose. Everybody over renders. You know what I mean? Everybody think, well, I need to go in and fix that. Go check out Anders Zorn. Go check out John Singer Sargent. And then ask yourself, look at their paintings, scroll in. If you got a good, big high profile picture of it, scroll in. And then be very honest with yourself. Ask yourself, while you're looking at that beautiful painting, masterclass in alla prima, ask yourself, if this was on my canvas, would I try to fix it? If I made this painting, if this was my painting as it was right now, what would I look at? And odds are pretty good. You'd be like, well, I'd probably sharpen up that collar line a little bit. Oh, well, yeah, and that side of the head, some of those brush, well, yeah, and over here. And then as you do these little nitpicky things, what ends up happening is you lose all of the life out of that piece. And the same thing happens. Have you ever heard people, and you may even say this as well, and I say the royal you, not just Kiri, but everybody. Man, my sketch looked awesome, but then I started painting it and it just fell flat. I say that all the time on my stuff, and I don't even like sketching. But it's because there's a looseness and an energy, and the viewer has to work for their meal. The viewer has to work out what things are supposed to be and where. So it's more enticing to look at. It's more interesting to look at. And it's just a better piece, usually, in the sketch phase. Just because there's less directing traffic. You're leaving it up to the viewer to put their own meaning into whatever it is. So just keep that in mind. Hell, sketch with paint. Just use your paintbrush, a big, way too big brush, and just sketch. Don't worry about the finished product. Don't worry about rendering. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just sketch and see what you end up with. You're going to be really surprised and impressed with yourself, because I bet your instincts are there. The fact that you want to try alla prima and that you're going for it and studying it means you're ready. You know what I mean? I think you're going to be really surprised with it. All right, so thank you, Kiri, for that one. Now, let's move on to, Rookie Lin Chan? Question mark? I don't know. I'm terrible. I'm an idiot from the Midwest, so you got to apologize if I'm messing with all of these pronunciations. But question is, I have a hard time using reference. I often don't understand how to implement something from another photo or artwork when it is not one-to-one. Example given, I want to paint a reflective surface but can't find references with almost exactly the same shape or angle. If possible, I'd like to see your approach collecting and using reference. I hope that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And that'll be a great video idea by itself. So really and I think you're asking the right person this, because I come from the observational atelier, life drawing, hold out your pencil to get your measurements type observational art. So how do you buck that trend? How do you buck the trend of like, man, I'm doing this reference and now I'm just becoming a photocopier. Now I'm just a copy machine. Which, at a certain level, there's nothing really wrong with that. But it sounds like you're struggling with kind of the imaginative side of it. And that's kind of the biggest first leap into really leveling up your skill, is being able to look at a reference and be able to know what to leave out and then what to put in that's not in the reference. So you'll see with my the portrait painting, I don't know if it's started yet, probably so, but I stick pretty close to the reference for a little bit, and then I kind of got away from it because I wanted to make it a painting instead of just a photocopy. So I didn't really care what the reference had anymore. I knew what I wanted to do, and that's a great way to go at first. So if you want to copy 80% of an image, go to a good stock photo website like pexels.com or unsplash.com is another great one. And be sure you do give credit to the photographers, because it's their art that we're basing our studies off of, so they absolutely deserve all the credit. But go in and do like an 80% done deal, and then a study, and then go in and add something, like add a little sphere in the upper corner, just a basic cube, or just a basic primitive shape. It might seem odd to do this, but I want you to use the lighting and use the colors and the value structure that you have established on your study, and make that orb fit into your composition. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a basic primitive shape or form, and add it to it. And see how convincing it will look. And then next time you do a study, do that twice. Go in and maybe add another light. Maybe add a light that was not there. That's really going to start tinkering with your brain a little bit, because now you're going to have to look, okay, where's my fill light? What's my key light? Do I have a rim light? What light do I want to add, or what light do I want to emphasize? And then maybe add like a green soft light coming from the bottom right corner, no matter what it is, and see if you can realistically add in your light and your color to the thing. So the structure's all there. You got the structure and kind of the composition from the photo, but can you start messing with it and making it look correct or look good? Now, at first, you're going to think, no, this doesn't look right, because you're going to be so locked in to that reference photo. But I promise you, the more you do this, you're actually going to start getting bored of doing one-to-one photo studies. Because you're like, what am I doing? Like, yeah, I can do this and it's fine, but it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. And then you're going to start branching out. But really, once you get past that first hurdle of like just doing your one-to-one studies, you're going to start collecting multiple references, and this is just naturally going to happen. You don't have to really force yourself to do it. This is just going to start naturally happening. You're going to be like, okay, well, I have this daytime photo, but what if I wanted it to be nighttime? Or not even necessarily nighttime, but like the golden hour, what is it, 6:30 p.m. or whatever, where everything has that nice orangey gold look on the outside. Let's say it's a landscape. So you're like, okay, well, now I need to find, what do clouds look like during golden hour? And I'm going to replace the clouds in this photo with the clouds in golden hour. Well, now, everything was midday in this one, so it's a lot of blue. How can I convert this blue to yellow convincingly? You know what I mean? You're going to start stretching out your artistic prowess. And what's nice, you're going to know what you need to study. So then your studies are going to be more productive. So this is all going to feed into itself. And I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I still love doing this. Hell, I did it on this. I love doing studies to where then after about 60, 70%, I can toss the reference away and just kind of do whatever I want and have it still look pretty interesting. So yeah, there's some ideas, but I think you're right. I think a dedicated video and like showing examples and kind of like bringing in multiple things. Another quick one that I always talk about is take the color scheme from one painting, bring in the subject or the actual composition of another painting, and then light it like another painting. So you're taking 3 different things. How are you going to combine these things together? Like, you got your work cut out for you. I mean, it sounds, a lot of people will bash, ironically, they will bash photo bashing, mixing photos together and trying to make something that looks good. Give it a try. It's way harder than you think. And the reason why is because everything's lit different. This could have the shadow coming from the back. This could have a shadow coming from the upper left. This could have so you need to figure out how to make these things work together to give yourself a proper composition. But yeah, hopefully those are some decent ideas, kind of to get you started down that rabbit hole. Yeah, and it's a big one too. And that's really where you're going to start finding your personality and your style, is you get to be the editor. What do I want to keep? What do I want to get rid of? And that's really, in my opinion, what makes for an effective artist. So thank you so much for that one. And let's move on to Jacob's. I think this is the last question. It says, I hope I haven't missed this. You have not. Welcome aboard. I wanted to ask, how do you know when you're ready to start applying for art jobs? Ooh, good question. The answer is right now. Right now. Start applying. Apply to your dream studios. Apply to your local mom and pop shops. Put something out on Facebook saying you're taking commissions. Get your name out there. It is not up to us as the artist to know when we are ready. It is up to the people wanting to commission our artwork to let us know when we are ready. Does that make sense? There's an old saying, I think Bruce Lee said this, and he said, when you're good at something, you will tell everybody. But when you're great at something, they will tell you. and there's a lot of validity to that. Pursue skills and not jobs. So go after the skill and the jobs will follow. I promise you they will. I guarantee it. Whenever I stopped focusing on getting a job at blank, I started getting better. Because I was like, well, maybe in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, what do I need to do to get the job at Magic, or to get a job for Warhammer, or get a job at Adidas, or whatever. And it was usually down to fundamentals, lighting or rendering or, brushwork or composition. It was something. It's usually a fundamental, by the way. So the more I started practicing that and getting better at that, the more job opportunities started coming up. And I would just post them on socials. I wouldn't really go and hound art directors. I wouldn't do all that. A majority of my work, including Warhammer actually, came to me. They came to me and they said, hey, we like your stuff. We saw your stuff on Insta or ArtStation or, DeviantArt or whatever. So, are you interested and do you have open availability? There you go. Congrats, you made it, And I would say even work with, friends and family. If you just want to get some experience working for a client, if one of your friends runs a D&D campaign, or if they, if they're a writer and they would like kind of an image of one of their characters, great, that's great, man. And let's say they pay you $10. Great, you're working with a client, you're getting paid, congratulations, you're a professional artist. You don't need the big name Fortune 500 companies coming to you in order to call yourself a professional. All you have to do is get paid for your work. That's how you make it in the trades. And art, in my opinion, illustration and art is a trade. This is way closer to something like being a plumber or an electrician or a car mechanic. We do a service and we provide for society. And yeah, once you get paid for it, you're a pro. I don't care if it's $1. You got paid, welcome aboard. Just get that experience. And yes, there's going to be a lot of stuff to where people are going to try to undermine you or undercharge or whatever. But you'll deal with that. You'll get there. And we could do whole videos about that on your business savvy as an artist. But, people are respectful. I mean, the people that you want to work with, I should say, are respectful of your time and of your ability and how you fit into the process. And, it's all people. You're just going to be working with people. So the better you get at the customer service side, the better you get at the soft skills, emails, meeting deadlines, communication, keeping that open, you'll do fine. That's really where the power is. I would much rather hire, if I was like an art director looking for outsourcing or whatever, I would much rather hire the artist that still has room for improvement, but is gung-ho, shows up on time, wants to be part of it, tries their hardest, is open to feedback. Be that person. Don't be the diva. Oh, I'm too good for this. Oh, I'm selling myself short by working on this small project while I have big dreams and aspirations. Like, screw that. Don't be a diva. Yeah, just do the work, man. I just love the job. That's the way I see it. I just love the job. I'm not going to do anything else for a career for the rest of my life. Like, this is it for me. So whatever opportunities out there and working with people, and if it's a small project and I get to do a spot illustration for $50, great. If I work with another worldwide release like Star Wars and, it pays off my car, great. To me, it's kind of the same thing. If you work with good people and you have a cool project, you're going to make magic. It's just going to happen. But start small. You can start literally right now. Just put out there on social, hey, if you need a drawing, if you need a painting, I'm open for business. Here's my portfolio. Or, if you have like a little home site or an art station or DeviantArt, whatever your profile and your art, even if you have it just on Twitter. Hey, here's my Twitter. Go to my media tab and all of my artworks are there. Great. Just so people can see what they're getting. You know what I mean? But yeah, start right now. I mean, the worst they can say is no. And I mean, I have a folder filled with no's. Literally, I keep all of my dismissal emails, all of my emails saying, hey, keep up the good work, but you're not right for the job yet. Great. And that's the mindset you have to have. You may have gotten rejected, but it means you're not ready yet. You will be. You just got to put in the time. But that is it for Ask Wes episode number 3. Hopefully some good info here. Thank you for all the questions. Sorry it was kind of short notice, but yeah, as you can see, literally my hands are full right now with a baby bottle and a baby in it. So appreciate you guys very much. The next few videos may be time lapses. Those are just easier to record. I can just gently put on music and, have baby asleep next to me while I work with one hand, essentially. She does have her little swing here that she can be in, a little bassinet, but just something easier. It's easier for me to be able to record and just put that to music without having to worry about sound and, is a baby crying and all this stuff. So, but yeah, thank you all so much for the support. We will talk to you all very soon. And if you have any other questions at all, even if it's not an open time for Ask Wes, send them in. I save all of these and I'm going to just compile all of them. And, I'm, whenever little one's a little bit older, probably a month or 2 old, I am going to be recording the Simplifying Color Theory part 2. So if you have any color theory questions specifically, let me know, and it's something I can cover in the big multi-hour long tutorial. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to get started. There's a ton to talk about. But yeah, that's my time. You guys take care, stay safe. And from me and baby Evelyn, we say go out there and make cool art. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.